Adults are hypocrites. I'm lucky enough to say that I've been surrounded by proper adults my whole life. There are the teachers who set me straight in school, my cousin who taught me what yaoi meant by the age of 7, and my parents whom I love the most. Growing up, there are only 3 commandments that I had to obey in my household, which little me used to follow religiously. First, get good grades in school. Second, never ever lie to mommy and papi. Third, and last, don't even think to try smoking cigarettes. I always understand those rules are meant to shape me as a proper man in society, but little me was quite furious with the last rule. Things just didn't make sense to me. Because I wasn't angry with the rule itself, I was more furious and perplexed with who set and said the last rule, which, in this case, will be my parents. Both of my parents have been smoking ever since before I was spawned into this world. And I'm talking about like these heavy king-size cigarettes. I can say without hesitation now that I love them, but can you imagine telling a child not to smoke as they lavishly suck those cancer sticks in their mouth? Would that make any sense to a kid? No! And with all my heart, I believe that I am partly determined by my surroundings. And since my parents raised a son in a smoky environment, the sudden question turned out like this. Yup, a smoker. A stinky smoker. I've been smoking since stupid words are somehow integrated into math equations. They say curiosity kills a cat, but in this case, it made a teenager fall into a loophole of substance dependency. I spent my teenage years with cigarettes on my left hand, math worksheets on my right side, and no woman to be loved. It's no stretch to say that I was and still am addicted to cigarettes, but that's because most Indonesians spend their free time indulging the pleasure of caffeine and nicotine and some hardcore weeb shit. Without disregarding the obvious danger caused by smoking, I can't just sit still and ignore only one aspect that cigarettes have helped me with, and maybe other people as well. Is it higher tax income? Not gonna talk about politics here. Is it to make one feel more confident? Confidence comes from constantly facing your fears, I believe. Is it to increase the frequency of you taking a shit every morning? I mean, it's scientifically proven, but that isn't. I want to talk about how the act of smoking could not only break chains of generations that have been going on for millions of years, but also help individuals forge a relationship with each other. That's what I think is the only decent outcome of smoking. And I realized about it after I read this particular manga that utilized cigarettes as a form of social tool. Social tool. What exactly defines a social tool? The social tool is a term that suddenly popped into my mind due to my lack of English vocab. But for the sake of simplicity of this video, I'm going to reference a Stack Exchange post from 10 years ago. As said by user 230, the term social tool refers to anything whether it can be physical or non-physical that is used to make one more social. So in any case, it can be anything as long as it makes you yap a lot more. It can be a piano like what William did. It can be a Chinese gambling game with messaging features in it. Or it can be a smoking session with some middle-aged man that you invited out of the blue. Sasaki is an overworked middle-aged man who regularly visits one particular supermarket, and there's a reason behind that. Besides pondering where his never-ending job was going to lead him into, he went to the supermarket to get his, as he described himself, the usual Miss Yamada fix. Kind of like when VTuber fans get their vitamins from their Oshi.
Jangan dong.
Portrayed as this cheerfully attractive clerk with her guaranteed heart-melting fan service, Yamada is the only reason why Sasaki is still able to push through his job. This commensalism interaction has become a routine for them until one day, when Sasaki was struggling to find a spot to smoke, he heard an alluring voice from the back. "Pray come and smoke with me, good sir." Wait a second. As Sasaki turned his back around, he couldn't believe his luck. A tough-looking woman named Tayama seems to be the source of the alluring voice, who also claims to be one of the employees, the same as Yamada. This encounter would be the start of their special bond, as they would often smoke their problems away just behind the supermarket. But there's a twist behind this. Because Tayama and Yamada are actually the same person all along, with Sasaki having no clue about that fact because maybe a man plus middle age equals dance as fuck. Yamada is the ideal cheerful crook in Sasaki's perspective, while Tayama is a tough looking woman who routinely smokes with a middle-aged man like him. I believe this will be my first time reading a slice of life manga that puts quite a heavy emphasis on smoking. Even when the chapter only shows them having a conversation and smoking together, it's quite impressive that the manga is able to utilize mundane topics involving cigarettes and using that to intensify their bond further. I don't have a single clue if the author itself smokes cigarettes, but the way this manga represents how small talk around smokers usually goes is quite spot on. Questions like, why did you start smoking? How long have you been smoking? What kind of brand do you smoke? Those are the questions that usually get thrown out among smokers. It doesn't necessarily lead to deep conversation or something, but it usually gives us a glimpse at who the person might be. And that's what this manga excels at exploring. There's an instance in the manga where Sasaki and Tayama both exchange their pack of cigarettes. It may seem just like a one-off thing, but that small gesture proved to be significant, with Sasaki claiming the pack of cigarettes that he got as an important keepsake. Just like a perfume or a song, cigarettes could also be a memento of someone you hold dearly, or you can hold someone's untold stories that mean a lot to them. One example of that is how this manga explores the question of why did you start smoking? I utilize that as a way to bring more depth for the main characters in the form of a backstory. We can see how Sasaki's past love led him to smoke in the first place, or how Yamada's admiration towards the first person who acknowledged her struggle, who happened to be a smoker as well, led her to smoke. Those events might seem irrelevant in hindsight, but you can't really deny its importance in shaping the characters as they are now, and how cigarettes happen to play a major role during their turning point in life, and so on. Take a look at the cigarettes that I'm smoking right now. Gudang Garam International, or as how the Westerner will pronounce it, Gudang Garam International. This is my brand of choice for the past 8 years or so. It has a strong flavor profile, as you can probably tell by the size of it, and by these made up numbers that I couldn't care less. But despite the strong appearance, it's actually quite sweet and smooth once you get it all down to your throat. I don't know what kind of magic Indonesian has, but that's the typical Indonesian cigarette flavor profile, which is known as kretek, due to the mix of clove and some other secret sauce. Kretek have become a part of an identity for some Indonesians, and that idea became more prevalent for me, especially since I moved out from the country. There are a couple of instances where I will use clove cigarettes as a way to introduce my background and to initiate a conversation, because I think it's one of the easiest ways to introduce someone with no knowledge of flip pollen. I've shared my cigarette with a couple of my roommates, a guy that I met during my solo trip, and some random homeless dude in front of a station.
Methamphetamine, sir!
All of their initial reaction to the taste was more or less similar. They describe it as sweet, strong but very smooth at the same time, and it takes a while to finish. And it's always such a bittersweet feeling seeing a surprise and a joyful reaction on their face, knowing that they will crave the same sensation for the rest of their lives without being able to satisfy it. Because you won't be able to find this kind of cigarette in any part of the world except in Indonesia itself. Sono Indonesia. Cigarettes have always been my abusive substance of choice. I don't like wasting a day to recover from a hangover, and it's illegal to consume any form of cannabis in here, so my only option was to go traditional or being a fucking pussy. Alone, have a zig. Hanging out with friends, have a zig. At a good meal, have a zig. Did something hard, reward yourself with a zig. Now, I would never advocate for this kind of lifestyle to anyone, but in my defense, even though in the end it all comes down to personal decisions, you have to understand I grew up in a country where cigarettes are delicious, cheap, and easily accessible. Oh. Taking into account the stuff that I just mentioned, it's not surprising that I became a smoker myself, and I believe this was the case with my environment as well. Other than forming my friendships through shared circumstance and struggles, I spent most of my teenage years with my friends talking shit while smoking and drinking coffee at the same time, since there's nothing else to do in this dystopian looking ass city. I think that was our only way of having fun and distressing from the enormous academic pressure of the Asian school system. As a result of that, it's a little bit hard for me to reminisce about my teenage years without associating cigarettes as a part of memory that has always been there. Specifically, as an extra company while I made some core memories with my friends. It's just something that has never been absent on every occasion. And for me, that's what truly defines the role of cigarettes, both as a companion and as a social tool. Just like how Tayama and Sasaki are able to carry each other's burdens by releasing their struggles away with smoking one cigarette at a time and expanding their relationships as ashes go by. It really shows you how a small gesture of kindness could make someone go so far without them even realizing it in the first place. Maybe it's not always about the cancer that we made along the way. Maybe it's about opening yourself up to the one that cared about you. Maybe it's about spending mundane times with extraordinary people. Maybe it's about the meaningful relationships that burn slowly. Whatever it may be, this manga certainly has made me reflect on my love and hate relationships with cigarettes and really proves to you how the Japanese medium could always take the slice of life genre, turning it into a whole another level of romanticizing life scenarios. So go check out this manga and try not to smoke. Wait, I sound like a hippo.